I think what makes Superman such a great hero at his core is that he shows us the best that is within us.
Told you you'd catch me.
Clark just sees himself as someone who does what he can with the abilities that he has.
Welcome to another show. Today, we're going to count down the top Superman novels. And these are not graphic novels, but actual novels written by sometimes very famous authors. Next novel on the list is Superman Returns by Marv Wolfman. And this book is a movie tie-in and is therefore basically the same as the film with minor changes that come with artistic license. However, two major changes significantly deviate from the film. Superman not having a shard of kryptonite inside him as he throws the kryptonite island into space, and Jason's non-linkage to Superman. Superman retaining his powers even with a piece of kryptonite inside him is a hot topic that puts consistency into question, as evidenced by the talk pages. Jason's real identity is a fertile ground for a sequel.
Are you guys excited about your big flying scene together?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited. Brandon's done this before.
I told her I'm a frequent flyer, there's nothing to worry about.
This is obviously a very special one for me, being back in blue.
I made a promise to keep fighting, no matter what.
The next novel on our list is Kingdom Come from Elliot S. Maggin. And this is a novelization of the graphic novel Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. It is the early years of the 21st century, without the guidance and values long championed by the old guard. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. A younger generation of superheroes is ravaging the world, but when the Man of Steel returns from self-imposed exile, his very presence could be the catalyst that pushes us all into Armageddon. Seen through the eyes of Norman McKay, an aging minister who embarks on a disturbing odyssey of revelation with an angel known as the Spectre to guide him. Kingdom Come is the story of what defines a hero in a world spinning inexorably out of control. Of the heroes who adapted to that changed world and those who couldn't, of personal battles fought with inner demons and the final war that would determine the fate of our planet.
Even if Superman didn't have all of his abilities, he saw all the great characteristics that make him caring about humanity. I think he is a shining example of what we can hope to be as human beings. That's certainly what I try to learn from him.
You try to keep the emotions in the characters, the point of view of the characters, and what Superman meant to the different characters who were left behind, as real as you possibly can. I think that's, that's the way you get any kind of emotional resonance with the readers. And honestly, as a writer, I can write brilliant stuff, and if I don't get art that shows the emotion that I'm trying to put in the words, you've got something that's really flat. And we were really lucky to have, I was particularly lucky to have John Bogdanoff as my artist on the book, but all of the art in that book was just, everybody was just, working at 150%, 200% on those books. So it was really good.
Next novel on the list is Superman Doomsday and Beyond from Louise Simonson. It's also known as Superman Lives, a licensed novel published in 1993, set in the DC Comics universe, written by Louise Simonson, and with illustrations from Dan Jurgens and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. It is a young adult version of the Death of Superman comic storyline from 1992. An audio adaptation of the storyline, using the same title, aired on BBC Radio 1, also in 1993, which was released on audio cassette in 1993 and CD in 2005, if anyone's interested. Next novel on the list is Lois and Clark, a Superman novel from C.J. Shera, and it's based on the television series of the same name. It's about a romance between Superman and universe characters Lois Lane and Clark Kent. Lois Lane and Clark Kent's engagement in Metropolis is interrupted when Clark Superman has to fly to the Caucasus in Eurasia to rescue people downstream from a burst dam. While Clark is away, a hotel in Metropolis collapses, and Lois becomes involved in rescuing some children. When Clark returns, he and Lois discover that their arch-rival Lex Luthor may be responsible for bringing down the hotel and other buildings, the city using water to undermine their foundations. In a review of Lois and Clark in the New Straits Times, Martin Spice criticized the book's lackluster plot and elements of it that are not believable. For example, buildings in Metropolis that have their foundations washed away by water. He was also critical of the book's publishers and their copy editing. and in particular, the cover's public display of affection between Lois and Clark. Lois and Clark was also reviewed by Neil Jones in July 1998, an issue of the British fantasy and science fiction magazine Interzone, and by Jill M. Smith in RT Book Reviews. Smith wrote that Shara uses her vast talents to add to the adventures of two timeless, beloved characters. Another novel on the list is The Adventures of Superman, a novel by George Lowther.
Superman, how did you manage to get here?
Well, somebody had to manage.
And it was first published in 1942 with illustrations by Joe Shuster, the co-creator of Superman. A facsimile edition was released in 1995 by Applewood Books with a new introduction by Roger Stern. This book is the first novelization of a comic book character and also the first Superman story credited to someone other than Jerry Siegel. It was Lowther who first provided many now familiar details of Superman's birth and early life. The first two chapters provided the first detailed description of planet Krypton, and renamed Kal-El's parents Jor-El and Lara. That would be Jor-El and Lara, who previously had been named Jor-El, Jor-L, and Laura, Lora. The next three chapters dealt with Clark Kent's childhood on the farm of his adoptive parents, Eben and Sarah Kent. Now in the comics, the Kents suffered through many name changes before settling on Jonathan and Martha in 1952. In the sixth chapter, Clark arrived in Metropolis and got a job with the Daily Planet, while the remaining 11 chapters deal with a mystery involving ghost ships and German. Rhymes with Ratsy, spies. The book is illustrated with 4 full-page color illustrations, 6 full-page black and white illustrations, and numerous sketches, all examples of Joe Shuster's work.
I'm Kevin J. Anderson, and I'm here to talk about my new novel, Enemies and Allies, which is about the never-before-told story of the first encounter of Batman and Superman.
The next novel on the list is Enemies and Allies by Kevin J. Anderson. It's a 2000 novel by American science fiction author Kevin J. Anderson. The book is set in the 1950s in the midst of the Cold War and follows Superman and Batman.
Slap his face. Step back. Why you?
Though suspicious of each other, they confront Lex Luthor, who stages an international nuclear conflict and spreads fear of an alien invasion so that he can sell advanced weapons to governments. Themes used in the novel, reflective of the 1950s era, include alien invasion films, nuclear threats, and Cold War paranoia. Anderson has written supporting novels in the past in established franchises such as Star Wars and Dune. He had previously written about Superman in the 2000 novel, The Last Days of Krypton. Enemies and Allies was published in May 2009 and met with mixed reviews, which noted flat characterization, but that it may be entertaining for comic book fans. The story takes place in the late 1950s. Gotham is a crime-ridden city with corrupt cops, but the crime rate has been hit hard by the vigilante actions of the Batman.
I chose to set the story in the 1950s during the Cold War because to me that seemed the best time for the costumed heroes to do their thing. Lex Luthor is actually promoting international tensions because he's making so much money designing nuclear missiles. Clark Kent and Jimmy Olsen are sent off by the Daily Planet to investigate stories of a crashed flying saucer out in the American Southwest. And of course, Perry White, the editor of the Planet, doesn't believe there could possibly be any aliens walking around on Earth.
Metropolis is the far opposite of Gotham, bright, uncorrupted, and protected by the super-powered hero known as Superman. When interviewed by Daily Planet reporter Lois Lane, he revealed he was an alien from Krypton. But to their surprise, no one, not even businessman Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne, believed that statement, even though someone like Wayne cannot explain how Superman can do what he does. Enemies and Allies was published by William Morrow and Company, an imprint of HarperCollins. Book reviewers had mixed reactions. The review published in Publishers Weekly called it a hokey, contrived imagining of the team-up of Superman and Batman, concluding that it was a schlocky mediocrity for diehard fans only.
Bruce Wayne, the playboy millionaire, is running Wayne Industries, but he also loves to read the thriller novels of Ian Fleming because he models himself on James Bond.
I was a Superman fan during the Silver Age, the Mort Weisinger age, and Action Comics and Adventure Comics and Superboy and Superman and Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and World's Finest. Those were the Superman comics every month that I bought.
Next novel on the list is It's Superman from Tom DeHaven. It's Superman is a novel by Tom DeHaven based on the comic book superhero Superman. The premise tells the tale of Clark Kent's beginnings into becoming Superman, set in the 1930s, where Clark befriended a wrongly convicted photographer named Willie Berg, and is then taken from Kansas to Hollywood and finally in New York, where he meets Lois Lane, fights Lex Luthor as he debuts in his superhero persona, Golden Age Superman, also known as the Superman of Earth 2. Perry White, the Daily Planet, Lex Luthor's position and his trademark powers, including flight, are not part of the alternative Earth. Rather, it's a Superman period piece set in the 1930s in Smallville, Kansas of 1935. Clark Kent is interviewed by the local sheriff over the death of a wanted man that Clark confronted at the local movie theater. They believe the man died from the handgun firing backwards, but Clark and his father, Jonathan Kent, know the real truth. The man fired his gun at Clark, and the bullet bounced off Clark's forehead, killing the wanted man instead. Clark is scared over what he is becoming, with his father providing no answers to his questions. To make matters worse, Clark's beloved mother, Martha Kent, dies of a terminal illness not soon after in Manhattan. Reviews of It's Superman were overall generally positive. Readers applauded the 1930s details, from movies to even the brands of cigarettes, as well as the book's nature, to suck them into the story. The New York Times described the novel as delightful, with energy and imagination, and Entertainment Weekly stated that the book is textured with authentic faces, places, and attitudes. Various websites went as far as to put the novel side by side with non-superhero novels such as The Grapes of Wrath and The Outsiders. Comic Geek Speak, a fan podcast dealing with comics and other media, did an episode about this novel, where DeHaven was also a guest. The novel was praised by the podcast, where the host stated that they liked the novel's story, being original, and the depiction of Clark, where he was seen as a much more human Clark than we are used to seeing in comics and other media. It was also brought up that the novel alone had gotten every one of the hosts interested in other novels based on comic books, the superheroes, noting Batman, the Ultimate Evil, as one example.
Don't be concerned, Blue Boy. You're the only one who can hear me. It's my own private frequency. You might call it Lex TV.
Superman Miracle Monday, and that's another novel written by Elliot S. Maggin. It was published in 1981. A revised edition was published in 2017. This is Elliot S. Maggin's second Superman novel, following Superman Son of Krypton. As with Maggin's first novel, the original edition was published as a tie-in with the then-current Superman film series, with the first edition including a photograph of Christopher Reeve as the character. The novel is not, however, an adaptation of any of the films, nor does it take place in the same continuity as the movies. Miracle Monday tells the story of Superman trying to stop an entity of pure evil from causing universal chaos. The story introduces the time traveler Kristen Wells. The character later appeared in the Superman comics both as herself and as Superwoman. The novel introduces the holiday Miracle Monday, which occurs annually on the third Monday of May. The holiday would also make an appearance in the Superman comics and in the television series Superman and Lois, Season 2, Episode 15, if you're interested. In this story, Samael, the ruler of Hell, sends his greatest agent of evil, CW Saturn, to Earth to destroy Superman morally. Saturn is able to enter our dimension thanks to Lex Luthor having used a form of magic to escape prison, leaving a hole between worlds. At the same time, Kristen Wells, a history graduate student from the far future, uses time travel technology to arrive in the present for the purpose of finding out the origin of the holiday known as Miracle Monday. Mark Waid has cited the ending of Miracle Monday as his favorite moment from a Superman story. Paul Kupperberg credited Maggin for writing the definitive comic book story about Man of Steel, and cited all three of his Superman novels as his favorites. The 10-page story, The Miracle Monday Dinner, subsequently appeared in Superman number 400 from 1984. Kristen Wells debuted the comics as Superwoman in DC Comics Presents Annual number 2, 1983, and appeared again in DC Comics Presents Annual number 4 from 1985. She made a cameo appearance in Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, the final Superman story by Alan Moore and Kurt Swan.
Who are you?
A friend. Bye.
The next novel on the list is Superman, Last Son of Krypton, a novel written by Elliot S. Maggin and based on the DC Comics character of Superman. It was published in 1978. The novel was published as a tie-in to the release of the Superman the movie, with an image of Christopher Reeve on the cover, and, in its original edition, a section of photographs from the film. The novel is not, however, a novelization of the film, but rather a sequel, diverging from the film's story. Last Son of Krypton is Elliot S. Maggin's first Superman novel. It tells the life story of Superman from his birth on the planet Krypton to his childhood in Smallville and his career as Superboy, to his arrival in Metropolis and his career as Superman. The main antagonist in this story is a mysterious alien ruler with ties to Superman's past. Superman and his greatest enemy, Lex Luthor, must join forces to retrieve a document written by Albert Einstein and stop the alien ruler.
In 1932, a man named Mitchell Siegel is shot and killed by gunshots to the chest. While mourning the death of his father, his young son comes up with the idea of a bulletproof man, which he calls Superman.
The next novel on this list is The Book of Lies from Brad Meltzer.
So what are these two murders, separated by 1,000 of years? One of them is Kane, arguably sort of the world's greatest villain. The other, Superman, arguably the world's greatest hero.
The Book of Lies is a 2008 novel written by Brad Meltzer that assumes a connection between the story of Cain and Abel and the superhero Superman, co-created by Jerry Siegel. The Book of Genesis tells the story of the slaying of Abel by his brother Cain, the world's first recorded murder. Despite wide assumption that Cain used a rock or tree branch, the Bible does not state what weapon was used. That detail is lost to history. In 1932, Mitchell Siegel was killed by 3 gunshots to the chest as a result. His son dreamed of a bulletproof man and co-created one of the world's greatest superheroes, Superman. Like Cain's murder weapon, the gun used in this unsolved murder has never been found until now.
They ask Jerry Siegel over and over again every imaginable question when it comes to the creation of Superman, but not once, not ever does he even think to mention that his father is murdered by criminals. Don't you think there's a story there?
Cain became an orphan, and people forget that at the core of it, Superman is an orphan story.
And that was our show for today. What do you think? Have you read any of these Superman novels? Is one of them your favorite? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, I'd be honored if you subscribed to my channel, click the little bell to stay informed, and check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise, which is also in the comments. I'd also appreciate it if you shared this video, as that will help me gain on YouTube as well. Until next time, this is Kevin Gibbons saying live long and prosper. May the force be with you and keep reaching for the stars.